Okay, we have Oscar Archer number 17 here, so we're very happy to have 2016 Olympian and three-time world champion Patrick Huston, who's kindly joined us today. Thank you, Patrick.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for having me. It's been nice having a chat with you before we flip the camera on here. Looking forward to this.
Excellent, no problem. Let's just quickly, I mean, we want to get into a bit of background about yourself, but I mean, you're literally, your background, your room there looks quite awesome. Just take us through what's going on there and all the stuff that you have in your room there.
So this is all memorabilia from my archery career, and there's an awful lot more of it. You'll see in some of my other YouTube videos and what have you. But basically, I've done an awful lot of archery. I've won a lot of things. Two of those titles I won on the same day. So that's these two medals here, and that's from the World Youth Championships in Wuxi in China 2013, individual gold and mixed team gold. I've got a couple of GB UK records, some Northern Irish records. I've got quite a few target faces. I really like to reinforce the positivity of, you know, what's my shooting at its best. You know, I've got a 596 Portsmouth here. I've got a 598 Portsmouth here. I've got a 599 Portsmouth still to go up. So those are reinforcing into my idea that it's like me to set records. It's like me to win world titles. You know, both of these events. So this was the World Champs double gold. This is the World Ranking event. Once again, I got double gold at that. So that's reinforcing that it's like me to take home 2 gold medals from an event. Right. The more I talk about, think about, write about that, the more likely it is to happen. So every time I see those medals, it might be a 0.001% chance, but that adds up year on year if I see them all the time, and it becomes more likely to do that. I go out to Tokyo 2021 games now. It's more like me because I've seen them all the time to take home 2 golds from that.
Awesome. So it's you're developing a positive mental attitude that, you know, winning is what you're doing, basically.
Yeah, big time. I'm a big fan of the book With Winning in Mind by Lanny Basham. Absolutely recommend it. It's basically my performance Bible. And in that, the entire thing is about growing your self-image so that your conscious and subconscious work to the performance that you see of yourself, your self-image.
Excellent, excellent, amazing. We'll definitely get into a little bit of that later on. For those who see this and they might not know about you that much or whatever, if you just give us maybe a brief background about your archery journey, how it began, and then how you got to, you know, the top elite level as well.
Sure thing. So everybody always asks, you know, how did you get into archery? And I'm sure loads of archers have had exactly the same question. I started at the age of 8. A British longbow champion came along to my primary school as a classroom assistant. She started an archery club. I went along with, I think, everybody from the school pretty much. There were maybe 100 kids or more. I got 3 arrows that day, but I really enjoyed it. I got the bug. Plus, the coach was fantastic. Odd Needham. She was with me from I started that day at 8 all the way through secondary school till I was 18. So I started then, just a little extracurricular activity 1 day a week. In secondary school, we ran an archery, or she ran an archery club as well. I went along to that, obviously, and joined the club outside school in 2009 when I was 12. Got my own bow then. Started going to competitions when I was 13. Got on the Northern Ireland squad pretty quickly. Discovered that I loved competing. I was never a sporty kid. You know, nowadays, I am an athlete, but like, I'm not at heart. Realistically, you know, up until the age of 17, when I won 2 world titles and the European title in the year, I was nerdy. I found a sport that involved standing still. I didn't want to be out running around, getting muddy, having to get changed, out in the cold and the rain. I come down into the junior common room, took off my blazer, maybe took off my tie, put my chest coat on, and I could shoot. So I started competing at the age of 12, 13. Got on the Northern Ireland squad, and then just kept doing competitions. The thing that really drove me was there was one particular memory. I shot. I was shooting, I think, my 3rd Portsmouth in about a month and a half with one of my competitors, the only other guy in the only other good recurve in the under 16 category in Northern Ireland. We were neck and neck the entire day, and then I think I ended up with about 517. So you can see the kind of score. I was putting in like 103s, 105s. I'd have some like maybe mid-50s, but they dropped down a bit as well. And then the last dozen, Frank decided that he would drop in a 119. My Frank was a better archer than me. He'd been around longer than me. He'd done more stuff. He had a nicer bow, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I didn't like being beaten because obviously he just beat me fair and square, but he put in a different standard, and I decided that I didn't like coming second, so I stopped coming second. I found this competitive vein that I think had always been drilled into me by my parents, and then I just worked at it constantly. I loved archery, competitions every weekend, all types of archery, indoors, outdoors, field. Made the GB team first in 2012, World Field Archery Championships. Then in 2013, I made the European Fields team and also the World Youth Championships team. Got 2 gold medals there. Was invited 2 gold medals at the World Youth and a bronze at the Europeans. I was invited to be part of the GB squad after that. Fair enough, 2 world titles.
Excellent, yeah.
Went full time when I finished school in 2014. And went to the Olympics 2016, set a world record 2015, many British accolades. And
Awesome.
I love archery. It's something I will be doing for the rest of my life.
Excellent. No, that's excellent. That was a whirlwind tour of your career. That's excellent, and I'm sure you've got many more years ahead of you, successful years. So right now, just take us through. I mean, you are operating at kind of an elite top standard. What does a day look like for you, or a week look like for you in terms of conditioning training, outside of archery training, non-bow training, and then shooting and things like that?
Yeah. So I'll take you through a little bit what we would do when we're away in the training camp, because that's when the training gets really intense. So the first thing, and this I will admit I do struggle with a little bit, is the morning activation session. So we get up and we're meeting outside, depending on where we are and whether we're traveling to the range or whether we just walk to the range after breakfast. Between 10 to 6, which is very early to be getting up in the morning, and about 5:30 we'll be out and we'll do some jogging up and down to get the body moving, and then various exercises, different, just little things like some press ups, some side planks, some rolling gait, different, just to get the body mobilized and moving. A bit more jogging and back to that. Frankly, it's a fantastic way to wake up. Your body feels awake. You're primed. Everything's loosened and mobilized. You actually end up really ready to do the day. But starting the day with training that early on, it gets tiring by the end of it.
Sure.
And then we start our shooting. My warm up, when I do my full warm up, as if I'm prepping for competition, which is like I'm going to shoot for a bit. It takes about 20 to 25 minutes. And I do quite a lot of whole body mobilization, whole body activation, so that then when I pick up my bow, everything is ready to give me exactly the level of strength and stability that I want, because it's all connected all the way down into the floor. So that warm-up takes about 20-25 minutes, and there's quite a lot of bodily stuff in it. And then the bow warm-up as well, because I'll draw my regular bow, obviously, with a clean band first, and then the bow. And then I'll add some bands to the bow to make it heavier. So that's quite a bit of workload in that warm-up itself. Yeah. Then we do about 3 to 4 hours of shooting. On our shooting training, we're not just shooting arrows. There's a lot of shooting arrows, yes, but there's also different exercises for doing, say, some planks and then shooting. So you've got a disruption and intensity added to your core, and then gets added into the shot. Having different disruptions given to you, like standing on balance boards. There's loads of really interesting stuff to do, but it makes the training really thorough, really intense. And we'll normally do a scoring period in the day somewhere. So whether that's going into a mixed team pairing, doing a couple of ends with your mixed team partner, and then a little head-to-head, or some a 360. There's normally some degree of scoring in there somewhere during the day. Yeah. We also do we do two blocks, obviously a lunch gap with a little bit, maybe about an hour or so on top for lunch. So we have about an hour and a half to 2 hours between the two sessions to let your body recover a little bit, because first off, whenever you're doing this shooting, your muscle and the fascia within it get compressed, and so that needs to stretch out, needs to rehydrate, so that you can go and perform well in your second session. When we go to the gym after our second sort of 3-4 hour block of shooting, so during the whole day, we probably shoot between 220 and 400 hours when we're on proper serious training. Personally, I think you could cut that volume down quite comfortably to a sort of 150 to 250 window, so long as you're doing maybe sort of 15 to 20 minutes of bow drills a day. Right. Bow drills I find them first off, you get an awful lot of hour volume worth of physical stress in your body. So you get really good development of the fitness just by the load put on the muscles.
Right.
But it also gives you quite a lot of very useful sort of neural crossovers, because you're getting in that position, holding it for a long time. You can control where you are. You get more sensation. You get more awareness. That when you say draw with your fingers and try and do a shot, you don't have quite the same amount of control with.
Right.
So anyway, shoot about 250 to 400 hours most of the time, and then we go to the gym. 5 days a week, we'll be doing some prehabilitation. So if you imagine rehab, this is prehab.
Okay.
So it's lightweight exercises, things like this. So we're just conditioning the rotator cuff, different positions of that, walking around, different shoulder stability exercises, etc. To reduce the likelihood of injury.
Would the training be mainly focused around shoulder, top of the body, or you're doing like whole body exercises as well?
There is an awful lot of weighting around the shoulder. Yes, we're doing stuff for the rest of the body in the session, but the injury risks are up here, and that's where we would definitely. I would say there's probably a 70-30 split to the upper body, lower body.
Right.
But also the lower body, you can do quite a lot of big heavy stuff that works an awful lot of stuff in the legs, so you can compound a lot of exercises there. So we do this prehab stuff, probably about 10 to 15 minutes a day of that. And then 3 times a week, we'll have gym sessions doing, big heavy lifts, progressively increasing loads and all that. So, not a gym buff, so I don't need to talk too much on that. And then normally we'll do another bit of cardio. I've discovered the real importance of nasal breathing. I'm not doing it so well at the moment because A, I'm talking, and B, the hay fever allergies are keeping my nose clean. But I've discovered that that's a really, really big thing for the optimization of your entire physiological processes in your body. So doing cardio with purely breathing through your nose is fantastic training. And it's something it's almost a mental struggle, but when you can control it and when you redress that sort of CO2, O2 balance in your body to the right point, you end up with a much better functioning body.
Are you breathing in the nose, out the mouth, or in and out the nose?
Everything in and out the nose.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
If you want to really push that, try doing some breath holds as well. Because the signal to breathe is caused by the CO2 buildup in your body, not the oxygen drop. People think I need to breathe. No, they need to breathe out. They think they need to get rid of CO2. So when you do breath holds, first off, you reset the body's CO2 receptors so that it recognizes I need to breathe out later. People that chronically overbreathe, particularly mouth breathers, they breathe small and shallow and at a high respiratory rate. So they breathe out a lot of carbon dioxide. But your body actually needs carbon dioxide in the blood to allow the hemoglobin, the oxygen carriers, to let go of the CO2, to let go of the O2 into the body. So when we breathe through the nose, we have a slower rate, higher CO2 levels. The body actually gets more effective oxygen. But if we're having our CO2 monitor set off higher, then we breathe too much and we end up with actually less functional oxygenation. There's loads of really, really interesting stuff. You can basically hack your body. You can actually cause EPO, which is the thing the cyclists take to dope. You can cause it just by doing breath holds during a warm-up. Really, really
awesome. Yeah. Now, I mean, people see archery as it's a non-cardio sport. It's a non-active sport, meaning you're just standing still and pulling. But as you've kind of just explained to us, the warm-ups and things and shooting, it's the whole body's involved, right? It's not just your arms and your hands pulling, and everything is involved there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Archery is, to be fair, I will hold my hands up and say that I got pretty much to the Rio Olympics without thinking much of anything below about here. So I will completely admit that it is very, very heavily weighted to the stuff going on here. But when you're wanting to be basically, I want to be consistent at the top level. I want to be putting out the best archery I can in competition consistently over a long period of time. So doing that over a long period of time needs the fitness and stamina to be able to do that, which means you need to be getting your body to do the entire shot regularly on a consistent basis. And secondly, you also need to have your body at the same place. That's when I do the full body activation, so that all of the muscles in my body are ready. That kinetic chain is ready. Like I know due to the position of my big toe and slight internal rotation of the legs, my glutes don't really fire very well.
Right.
So I'm having to keep myself quite a lot to keep my hips more open, so that my big toe can activate, deep stabilizers inside my hips activate, and my glutes work. If I don't do a good warm up, my glutes won't activate. I won't be connected to the floor as well. I'll still shoot well, but say there's a gust,
Yeah.
you know, that gust might, if I've not activated properly, that gust might cost me a 9 to a 7. Whereas if I'm activated, I might scrape a 9 or I might get an 8.
Yeah.
And over the course of a day, those points really add up. And it's the kind of thing that takes your group from, say, that size to that size.
Right.
And you just do a couple less 8s and a couple more 10s, and suddenly, by having another 5 or 10 minutes of warm up at the start of your shooting session, you've actually ended up with 10 points more for the score.
Yeah.
And if someone said, I can give you, obviously you can't prescribe it, but if I said I can guarantee you 10 points more in every round you do, just for the sake of doing, say 7 minutes of waving your arms around and doing stuff that you don't necessarily see other people doing, you pretty much do it. And it's just called doing a warm up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think a lot of people, and again, I'm guilty of it as well, is that when I first started archery, I was a young guy, zealous, really just eager to get into it, and I wouldn't always warm up properly, and so I'd string up the bow, and boom, boom, off we go and shoot. After a while, I'd be, I'm a right-hand shooter, so my bow arm is my left arm, so I'm getting a pain here in my neck, and then like I got to a point where I could only turn my head about that far, and it would just be like a really bad pain in my neck. I couldn't, turn any further. Then I realized, it's because I'm not warming up. So I kind of learned the hard way that it's definitely important to warm up, not just the upper body, but the whole body itself. You mentioned, so you're based in Northern Ireland, right?
I'm from Northern Ireland. I'm based in Telford.
Oh, you're based in Telford. So do you train, are you at Lillishall, or do you have another training centre that you're at? And how often do you meet with your other training partners?
Yeah, so I train at, I'm not training there at the moment because obviously, it's the end of the world. So I train at Lillishall National Sports Centre with the rest of the Olympic squad. So there's a few of us that aren't sort of centralised, aren't there all the time. For example, Alex Wise and Bryony, they're both at university, so they come down for sort of 4 or 5 day chunks at a time. They're here for 4 or 5 days, away for 10, back for another, etc. But most of us are there. There's myself, Tom Hall, Tom Barber, Sarah Bettles, Naomi Falkard. We're all there, 5, 6 days a week shooting, on a fairly consistent basis. So we see each other pretty much all the time there. I do go to a few different archery clubs as well because I love the sport. I like shooting with people that do it recreationally. I do tend to be experiencing this world a little bit as a job nowadays because what I'm doing is literally my livelihood. So it is kind of my job because I'm now doing it 5, 6 days a week. But I still absolutely love both doing it and just being involved in it entirely. So going along to regular archery clubs. Bodco, which actually shoots in Lillishall during the indoor season. They have a lovely outdoor field just in Newport, and also Boco, which is a fantastic outdoor. They've got an outdoor range, an indoor range, a little field range, and a clout range, all on the same venue.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
And then because they own the field, they've been able to get back shooting. So I've got 70 meters back, about 25 minutes from my house.
Wow, amazing. That's it's obviously very convenient to have such good facilities so close by. I was speaking to Lloyd Brown last week. We had a good conversation.
Yeah, it was quite interesting myself as well to see the. Obviously, I know Lloyd fairly well. He was behind me when I won these medals here.
Great.
But it's quite interesting to hear him explaining. I hear bits of the coaching models being worked on. Every time I go to do a coaching course, I'm told, no, we're doing this modular format, which is coming out really soon.
Right.
There's no point you doing level 1. You should go and do this when it comes out. But it's really interesting hearing about it. And I know there's fantastic work done by Archery GB. I know people complain and people whinge and moan and what have you, but frankly, they are doing their best. They're out there asking the members what do people want. They're putting on road shows, and during this time as well, there's been loads of good content come out. I really appreciate the work they do.
100%. Yeah, no, there's so much hard work that goes on in the background. Like you say, it's very easy to kind of be a spectator on the side and moan about this and that. But, you know, they're doing the best they can with what they can, and they're doing a good job. One of the things I spoke to Lloyd about was, you know, and I've spoken to a couple of other, you know, kind of top level archers in the past, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, in the UK, archers, top level archers find a hard time basically supporting themselves. There's not necessarily that much sponsorship, unless it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You need to get to a top level in order to get sponsorship, but you can't get to that top level unless you kind of have someone backing you and stuff like that. So, you know, without getting too personal with your situation, you know, how are you able to be a full-time, you know, Olympian and sportsman, and kind of have it kind of, you know, and support yourself?
Yeah, so realistically, you're entirely correct there. You can't be a professional full-time athlete in the UK without the support of UK sport. There are a few compound archers that do it, but mostly they do that by doing coaching. So they're a professional archer who runs coaching sessions, who work people, sets up people's bows, etc. There are people that do an awful lot of archery in the UK, you know, top national tour level stuff. They've a job. You know, they're not professional archers. They might be very good. You know, I'm thinking people like Anthony Wood, Michael Judd, etc. They're doing fantastically well off the basis of being incredibly passionate and incredibly devoted to it.
Yeah.
The next set of people that would be spending loads of time doing archery are at university. There are students, particularly PhD students, that spend a lot of time shooting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know, my teammate Tom Hall, who kind of got to where he was in part through Warwick University, who supported him an awful lot there. In terms of making a living professionally from it, you can't do that, at least on the recurve side, without being on the archerygb program and being funded by UK sport. The way that I would see that changing and the way that developing is for archery to be more effectively commercialized for people who want to get to that point, who can make money devoting enough of their time to the sport and selling the sport to people, providing the sport in various activities for people to do, and then having, you know, if you've got, say, a group of retirees booked in from 10 to 12,
Yeah.
and then you're at primary school from, you know, 2 to 4, and then you've got a recreational club 6 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a good amount of time where you've got paying clients coming in that you're working with and delivering archery to, and providing people motivation and enjoyment of our fantastic sport. But those gaps in between, you can then devote to your training, and particularly if you've got your own range and you're not visiting people and going to the location, that means that you can train in between those slots there. So that's how I think the professionalization of it is most likely to run, up until we get to a point where the sport has enough the other way to do it is when the sport has enough viewership and engagement and television viewers and professional competition scene, is effectively the way that Korea does it with commercial companies having commercial teams. But we're a few steps away from that happening.
Yeah, it seems you know, countries like Korea, the States, I mean, the sponsorship side of it, they're kind of years ahead of where we're at right now. Do you think that this leads into the issue of why those aforementioned countries are kind of so dominant in the archery world? Is it to do with the fact that they just have more archers who can spend more time doing exactly what they need to do, rather than people who want to be top level, but they've also got, you know, other bills to pay and they've got a job, XYZ? Is it the fact that, you know, they just have better backing from, whether it be government or business, that they are kind of somewhat years ahead of the UK?
Yeah, so we'll go with the US first. The US aren't world leaders. They have a world leader. They're definitely world leaders in the compound sphere, and they're world leaders in the compound sphere. You know, if compound was an Olympic game, the USA would dominate it 100%. They'd have the medal, because there are bow hunters out there who would come onto a target range, and suddenly you'd have, you know, if you got all the top compound archers to put a little bit of practice in, you could have 100 people shooting, you know, 705 plus in the US, no problem at all. And that's because they've got one. They in the compound division have huge depth. So particularly in the bow hunting sphere, that I think there's like 1 million bow hunters in the US. You know, that is an absolutely immense pool. It means that the people who rise to the top, they're fantastic. They also then have the backing of the finances from winning tournaments, but the bow companies are paying that because they're advertising to these million bow hunters.
Of course.
That makes a huge difference on the American compound side. The American recurve side, I definitely wouldn't say they're dominant at all. Brady Ellison, yes, absolutely, phenomenal archer, true respect for the man, fantastic technique, incredible mental game, and what he's been able to do with consistency, despite struggling with injuries with his fingers during that time, absolutely amazing. That's caused by a Korean coach, so sort of blending from the other one there, and KSL having a fantastic technical model. You know, inside the archers,
yeah,
I have here by Tyler Benner and Kisik Lee.
Very
I
good
would
book.
basically refer to that as it's basically a Haynes manual for recurve archery.
Right.
And the further we progress with it, the more I realised how accurate it is and how well it's written. It really doesn't really miss anything. It's very prescriptive, it's very defined, it's everything must, you have to, etc. But if you learn the general principles and definitions of things within that shot, you will be a fantastic recurve archer. I cannot find it. It is very, very, very good.
Yeah.
That combined with the US's value of, you know, yeehaw winning, you know, you think about, yeah, USA, you know, they're big, they're winners, they're motivators, they're passionate. You look at Dave Barr, 1988 Olympic champion, you know, he was a positivity, mental affirmations in with winning in mind. Lanny talked with Daryl Pace. And Daryl Pace talked about his medal. The US has always had that winning mentality, which means that when Brady's taken the messages, and he works with the Bashams, he works with winning in mind and the mental management system, that combined with a fantastic technique and that spirit, then you get the occasional person come out who is fantastic. And fair play to him, the guy is a fantastic archer. And in Korea, very simple, depth, taught well. They don't even have huge numbers of archers. They only have about 2,500 archers. There's not huge.
Lloyd mentioned that they don't have thousands of a massive pool of archers, but what they do have is just a high quality level of coaching, and it kind of starts from the grassroots, from the school level, so that they always have a very good supply of kids coming through.
Yeah, they have numbers of primary schools where a lot of kids get to try archery. The ones that have an aptitude get sent. You know, it's a fantastic pyramid. They start with a lot of kids young. And remember, kids are programmed to learn. You know, that's what they're doing day in, day out. Everything they're doing is learning. And also, they don't have the hang-ups that adults do. They don't have the stiffnesses that adults do. So when you teach them generally the right stuff to begin with, they learn the right stuff. Their bodies mold into it. And then it progresses into secondary schools, into high schools, colleges, universities. And then they've got pro teams, so it tracks all the way up. That steadily through school, you've got this good technique. You're training quite a lot. You know, one of my coaches, Sung Yi-woo, former coach in the performance unit, by the time she got to 16, she was at school 3 half-days a week. When she was 14, she was shooting 3 half-days a week. And then by the time she got to 18, you know, she was at school a couple of half-days a week. University, she was pretty much shooting all the time, then goes on to a professional archery team. You just see how you have people doing a lot, learning it well, doing a lot of volume, competitions, the cream rises to the top. The people that are left at the top of this bracket are really, really good, and there's an awful lot of people just behind them who are really good too.
I heard one of the, I don't know whether it is one in an Olympics or something, or some high level competition where the Korean first team were not able to shoot or something like that, so they chose the B team, and the B team still won.
2001 World Championships, the Korean team were there's different discussions as to what exactly it was. There's people have said that it's I'm honestly not 100% sure, but it's one of these things. I think it's the boat one. I think it's the one in the water. So apparently they took them out to sea, out to a lake, and said jump off to the home. And they said no, and they said right, you're gone. The other one was apparently carrying a boat up a mountain. But I only heard that one recently, so I'm not 100% sure.
The water one was the one that I heard as well, so that could be
okay,
it.
Let's go that. I only heard the carrying the boat up a mountain, but maybe that was just, symbolically, going up a mountain. And there's still a boat involved, so there you go. Anyway, the Korean A team, mental toughness training, they said, no, we're not going to do it.
Right.
So they were kicked off. The Korean B team was sent along, and Im Dong-hyun came home with a world championship gold medal from the 2001 world champs. You know, it's
amazing. Amazing they can do that. Okay, you know, someone would look at that and say, right, okay, if the Koreans are so dominant, why don't we just adopt their coaching and their teaching method in our teaching method, and hopefully using that blueprint, we should be able to get the same results. But obviously in reality, that's not always the case. In the UK, what is the attitude to coaching, or the coaching culture? Do they adopt from people like Kissick Lee or the KSL or other places, or do they just like, no, we know how to do it ourselves and we'll kind of forge our own way?
I think there is, to begin with, in the coaching, you have to go a long way up the Archery GB coaching scheme before you actually get taught good technique. What I know of as good technique, what I know of as to how to make a recurve work, isn't taught to people. You know, what you are taught to teach people in the beginner's course does not facilitate them learning good technique.
Right.
It does not teach that. You know, for example, I've done an awful lot of stuff with youngsters, with kids, with elderly people using these bows here.
Yeah.
You would never think of doing it, but I always tell people 2 fingers. I get them to shoot with 2 fingers, not with 3. They're light bows, that doesn't matter. But if I include my 3rd finger and you say pull the chin to your string, pull your string to your chin, you do this, and your hand comes in. Particularly your 3rd finger pulls in underneath
gripping.
You end up with a tight fist here, flexion through your forearm, and your elbow pointed out to the side. You will have seen people doing all of these different shapes when they try archery. Because pull the string to their face. Yeah. You get them to use 2 fingers. This is a very strong addition. These 2 share the same tendon. This is the 3rd one. So if we use just the one tendon group, then your hand will stretch out. They don't need told to relax their hand. People don't know how to relax their hand, but you get them to do it with 2 fingers rather than 3, and then when they pull the string back, they'll have their wrist relaxed, and they end up, I don't even tell them to anchor to begin with. I literally just tell them to pull it back. And then they pull it back to here, their wrist has to break, their wrist stretches out, and then they learn to have a relaxed wrist. After a while, you can bring in the 3rd finger.
Interesting,
So coaches aren't taught what techniques should be. They're not taught the things to actually make people improve, or to facilitate people learning stuff in the right way. And that's one of the things that the Koreans do fantastically well. They facilitate people learning it correctly, basically by teaching it to kids. And there are numbers of people in and across Archery GB going into schools like yourself. Fantastic to see. It's awesome. It's inspiring to hear about it. Well done. But there needs to be a standardization of definition of that, so that kids can be taught it in a way that they then learn it right. But then I think the big difference that the Korean society has compared to ours is the sort of structure and obedience. You know, the kids in a Korean university or a Korean school will spend 3 months doing a clinic band and just learning this stuff. And you don't need to define them as getting into a position, because just by doing it, if it's light, if it's difficult, they'll pull back and they'll crumple like this. But if it's really light, a thing like a chinny band, they just get into line. You just do it. It's really easy. I find with these bows, because the grip opens your thumb up, rather than holding the bow like this, you go behind it, it opens up the thumb, and they end up with a rotation without me ever teaching them to rotate their shoulder. It works fantastic. But you try getting a bunch of 8-year-olds to stand in a room for a day, an afternoon, a week for a few months doing this, they're just not going to do it. So there needs to be ways to make it fun and make it engaging, so that we can get large numbers of kids. Absolutely, it'll work. There just needs to be a structure of kids come in, learn archery young, but they need to be enjoyment. That's the big difference there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, let's maybe move on to that, in terms of, archery in schools and kids like that. So from my brief experience, over the time that I've taught in schools, I've decided to take them from about 10 years upwards. The reason I don't take them from younger, which is not because I don't think they should learn archery that age, is just because, kids are kids. It's very hard to get them to stand still for a couple of minutes. and that's not their fault. They, you know, they want to be kids, they want to run around, they've got energy. But like you say, I think that Korean culture is just that, you know, it's kind of drilled into them. They do listen and obey to some degree, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. But obviously for learning archery, that's what you want as a teacher or a coach. You want maybe 5 or 6 or 10 kids there who, you know, you say something and they can basically listen to you and get it done. So for me, you know, the kind of age limit I would say is 10 and above, because that's also when they can understand what you want them to do and also why you want them to do it. Any younger, you can tell them stand like this and raise your arms, but they're not really understanding why they're doing it. Yeah, again, I think it's a culture thing. I don't want to paint a broad stroke with you know, British culture and Korean culture, but yeah, sometimes the kids just, they listen or they don't listen, you know. And I think in the Far East generally, as a general observation, they do have a culture of, you know, listening to authority, listening to people above them, and implementing what's done. Whereas in the West, maybe it's more like think for yourself type of thing, you know, and you know, you find out for yourself, and so you don't always have to listen to people above you. I don't know if that would, and does that resonate with you a little bit? Do you think that kind of makes sense or not?
Completely agree with you on that front. There is definitely, there's just a more structured and obedient society, and even in the Korean language, there's actually an interesting fact that Korean Airlines in the, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, they changed their official language spoken in like cockpits and stuff from Korean to English, and they changed that because the hierarchical structure with which their language, say that the co-pilot would speak to the pilot in, because he's above him in the structure, the way that he defers to him just by the intonations and the way the language is implemented means that if the co-pilot is saying, this is an issue, you need to address this, the pilot is actually much more likely to not recognize it, because the co-pilot will be speaking to him in a deferential manner. So that authority, sort of that caste system almost, as it were, is embedded in the language and the structure. Japanese, it's exactly the same. It's fantastic being in Japan. Everybody is lovely. They're incredibly pleasant. Yeah. Everything's very polite. It's all very mannered. And it ends up being that you can have a bunch of kids doing drills for long periods of time in a way that you try getting a bunch of Western kids to stand around and obediently, quietly pay attention to the specific technical skill you're teaching them. That is not going to happen. We need learning. We need to be engaged. We need to find it fun. We need to be interested.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, you know, for us here in the West, what we need to do then is, like you say, you know, dangle the carrot. You need to make it fun, make it engaging. So we need to kind of think a little bit outside of the box of how to get them to do what we want them to do without telling them we want them to do it, type of thing.
What if I told you I could give you the answer to that?
Okay.
You've seen archery tag?
Yeah.
I use those foam-tipped arrows. They're not archery tag specific arrows. They're LARP arrows, but it's a carbon arrow with a big foam tip.
Yeah.
I've had groups of 25. I think a couple of the sessions at the start of my primary school, I had 25 kids, 25 8 to 12-year-olds, 8 to 11-year-olds, and I've ended up actually with about 14 8 to 10-year-olds. So I'm actually working with an age bracket younger than the ones you're with. And I don't need to stress about safety. I don't need to stress about whether one is slightly behind. Because yes, you're entirely correct. Stand on this line, don't move your feet. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, one of them's going to be slightly in front of it, one of it's going to be slightly behind it.
Yeah.
And with pointy arrows, if one of those kids leans down to pick up an arrow and somebody is a meter behind them and they shoot, that could kill them, you know?
Right.
We do need to absolutely pay strong attention to the health and safety risk of it. You put big marshmallows on the end of those arrows, works perfectly. Secondly, I don't need to put stress about nets and backstop netting inside or overshoot inside.
Right.
True, there's no strictness as to going up and down to collect arrows. I try to keep them, you know, from shooting at them while the targets are down there, while the kids are down there. And then the other thing that's fantastic for it is I use targets for knockout discs.
Oh yeah.
First of all, when they're not anchoring and they're just doing the technique, they're just pulling it back and shooting it. You know, they could hit any of the discs, and so long as a disc comes out, they get the motivation. There is,
Right.
we all know you shoot an arrow, it goes in the gold class, but if you shoot an arrow and you get a group in the blue, you're
Yeah.
gonna hate yourself. But if you
Right.
hit a disc, woo! I hit
Yeah.
a disc.
That's right.
Fantastic. You get people, you get even like old people, 6-year-olds, 70-year-olds. They're always walking away all chuffed and bubbling when they hit one of these discs out.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Foam tipped arrows. I'm not saying doing combat archery, doing archery tag with people. Just using foam tipped arrows provides. I've done it in a bank before. I've literally had people having meetings at the end of the corridor where shooting
Right.
down, and they
Awesome.
can we come out? Stop shooting the deck. They come out. You would never even think about that with pointy arrows.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I guess it kind of addresses the safety aspect, and it has that fun aspect to it as well. So for yourself at the moment, is that your approach? You just use foam tipped arrows and the knockout disc targets, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. And then at what point then would you move on to more kind of serious equipment then?
I'm actually edging on the concept of keeping schools pretty much on foam tip stuff, because
Okay.
I've been discovering that you can shoot these arrows, these foam tip arrows, remarkably accurately. And I'm not just saying with stuff like this, but you can put together a recurve bow. You may not get it's difficult, but it's definitely an awful lot of the learning. You can do all of the technical learning for a recurve shot with those arrows. The fact that they're not sticking in the target, that doesn't actually matter at all. Basically work, particularly in the primary schools, it'll be 100% foam tipped arrows, because it's just the safety issues of not doing it with foam tipped arrows. I could potentially, once there's a group of them who have consistently, paid attention, learnt the skills, and do obey things, then you could selectively bring them into a pointy arrows club.
Yeah.
But for the moment, there's a huge amount of scope with recreational foam tipped arrows. There really is.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's something that maybe people who are maybe listening to this and are doing stuff in schools, maybe something that they could look into. That's interesting. So, and you're starting with primary right now. Is it something you would look into doing at secondary school as well?
Yes, there's already been a couple of secondary schools I've discussed with them, but there's an awful lot of stuff on in my life, and it's a little bit of a juggle getting everything working together. But it'd be really interesting after this if we can chat more, because obviously you have a lot of experience working in schools. Be really, I'm always keen to work with people who are passionate about the sport.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. I think that this connection has been good so far. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to share my screen, and we're going to go through your social media presence online, because you've got a really good Instagram page and loads of stuff on your YouTube. So can you see this yet? Has your
it is currently buffering.
Okay, so it should, just give it a second and then it should come up. Okay, right, so can you see is there a YouTube page on there?
Yep.
All right, cool. So just tell us a little bit how long you've been running your page, and some of the how often you post, and some of the topics that you like to cover. I know there's a very good one recently. You had your breathing one, and mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah, so my YouTube page is something I've used sort of slightly inconsistently through my career, but there's I've got a bunch of stuff from Rio 2016, the build up to that.
Yeah.
I've also got fantastic slow-mo archery from years ago, different people, and some analysis of different views, including Brady. I think the day that he won his Olympic bronze medal. Throughout lockdown, though, I've been posting really very regularly. I've got loads of different exercise routines for people to do. I've also got, I think you're going past some of them now, some fun exercises for kids videos.
Oh yeah, we've got them here, yeah.
These are very heavily weighted from the stuff that I do with my primary school. And the exercises and the warm-ups that I do are designed to loosen people's body and loosen people expressively.
Yeah.
And basically, if you loosen your body, you loosen your mind. If you free yourself from stiffness and tension, and allow yourself to express, then you become more expressive. And I've actually asked the PE teacher a while ago, is it normal for the kids to be like rolling around on the floor like this? I mean, no, but I know what you mean. They've done it the past 3 weeks. they're rolling around the floor like this, but like they're obviously having fun. You know, they're rolling around the floor, laughing with each other and what have you.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting stuff. I'd strongly recommend you give it a look. And we're coming into some of my older stuff. I've got some fantastic stuff about bow training and different exercises. There's some technical stuff, technical analysis of my shot. Yeah, I'd recommend you have a look at it. There's loads of stuff on there. Really good one just at the bottom here. Richard Priestman, How to Make a Formaster. As you can see, 11,000 views.
Yeah, amazing.
Richard, how to make a homemade elbow sling so that you can do the bow training drills that I speak so highly of.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. Actually, there's one thing I wanted to go back. You said when you were at your primary school, this longbow lady came in, Audrey Needham, yeah?
Yeah.
Is she not linked to the author Liam Needham who did the book?
I don't. No relation to Simon Needham at all.
Okay.
No, it's the same name.
What a coincidence, though. But okay. But
yeah, that is actually quite funny. Yeah.
Excellent.
I've also got various vlogs. There's one from when I was at the Marrakesh Indoor World Cup in 2017.
Yeah.
There's a few different things as well. That bow versus technology video is something I'm planning to start up again shortly. Shooting old arrows into bits of technology and taking it apart in slow-mo. Interesting.
Yeah, but I think some more of the recent stuff is definitely focused on, obviously because you're on lockdown, but it's been focused on technique and form and posture and things like that. Yeah.
Talked a lot about different training techniques, different technical elements, direction to the target. I know it's a video that's got a lot of traction on my Facebook page as well. There's loads of videos on there. Excellent. So yeah, guys, I recommend you have a look. If you've got some time in your hand, which you probably do, you can learn a fair bit about archery from all my various archery ramblings.
Definitely, and you got a great Instagram page. You got over 3,000 followers, which is awesome. Again, some of your slow-mo vids here of you recently going out to the range and shooting. You're shooting a longbow on this one. Is that a longbow?
Yeah, that was my range has a clout range on it, so I went to
awesome.
The Clouter Field. So I was borrowing a friend's longbow. I was also shooting a light recurve with my X-Busters there, but that was a 60-pound Gary Evans bow. Felt amazing. Honestly, I've shot a fair few longbows, and that's one of the nicest I've ever shot. Nice. It didn't feel like hitting the floor with a cricket bat.
Yeah, that's excellent. And then your videos at Lily Shaw, they've got the mirrors set up there. They've got all the training there, which is, I remember back in my early archery career, when I first started doing archery, I went for a PPC course at Lily Shaw, which is a personal performance coaching weekend. And basically they introduce you in, they let you to start shooting, they're looking at you, watching you, and then they just kind of, the rest of the weekend is spent tearing you apart and telling you everything that is wrong about your technique and then building you back up. So it's a good ego buster, but it's a very good exercise for correcting your overall shot technique and things like that.
Yeah, Little Shaw's a fantastic facility for us to shoot at. I would personally like to have my own, but the coming
time. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, again, if people want to check out the Instagram page, I mean, there's a lot of good little videos in there, similar to what's on the YouTube, but slightly shorter as well. So excellent.
And it goes a long way back into my career, so you can look back over my career, different technique videos, different little bits and pieces from archery. There's a lot of stuff on there. It goes back to about 2016, early 2016. So there's many things on there.
Excellent. That's excellent. Cool. Right. I wanted to go on to coach and archer relationship and culture. We talked a little bit about the culture of East and West, and how kids in the East and West would learn and listen. So at your level now, do you have a fixed set coach that you work with, or do you have a couple of coaches that you work with? Do they kind of leave you to it to get on with your own training, or is it very detailed in terms of they are overseeing every kind of single part of your training and technique? How does that work?
So it's something that I've gone through quite a variety of in my career. I've been working with Richard Priestman, who's a 3-time Olympian, 2-time Olympic bronze medalist for 5 years now. He moved back from Colombia, where he was the national coach there in November 2015.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And fantastic working with Richard. He's taught me so much more. Almost, there's an awful lot of technical stuff, and I can rant about all the technical things that he's taught me for a very long time. If you'd like to see those videos, please check out my YouTube page.
Yeah.
He's almost taught me the philosophy of recurve archery. You know, the required elements, the concepts that make recurve archery work, and I can apply them to people of every single level. And he's been a fantastic mentor, a fantastic coach. He's taught me huge amounts. He's literally rewritten my shot with me and rewritten my concepts of recurve archery. So it's fantastic work. I've also got a couple of different people that I work with as well on our support staff at archerygb. So nowadays I get technical direction. I've worked with Richard a very long time. I have heard most of his messages, and his job nowadays is really to kind of drop in the reminder of the right element of, you need to emphasize this, and I go, yeah, you're right, that's absolutely bob on.
Yeah.
Richard's a big man for bow training. He really taught me about bow training to begin with, and he's a big advocate. You need a good amount of arrow volume to get that repetition, the smoothness and flow, but then the fitness that you need to dominate and control the bow is most optimized by bow training. If you want to get the fitness from shooting, you need to be shooting 500, 600 hours a day, but bow training gives you ease and a control of the shot that really allows you to be allows you to control and dominate the bow, which is what you need for high level performance. I've also been recently working with an Italian guy, Alberto Zagami, in terms of a much more scientific approach to archery training and much more defined plan. So that's been really interesting, and not necessarily the easiest for me of working from a direct and defined plan, almost like arrow by arrow, as it were. And very, very useful. And you can't fault the results. The World Championships 2019, 5 out of the 6 of us set international personal bests. Naomi was like 3 points off her PB, and we got 6 places for Tokyo and a bronze medal. So you can't fault it at all. It's really, really interesting and a very good learning process and learning experience for me to work with something quite so defined. In my archery career, I've had an intent and a direction and a will to do to achieve what I want. There's always been bits of goal setting and ideas of things to do and what's the stuff to work to do. And the areas of my physicality, the areas of my body that I need to improve and I need to work on, technique, etc., etc. But having it defined that specifically is quite different for me. And there's always things to improve, and I think there's an awful lot more development of both my own opinions about bow training and the like into that kind of approach to sports science. Be really, really interesting.
Yeah. So Richard Priestman is the current head coach for the Olympic team, right?
Yeah. And
then how many sub coaches are there that or kind of assist him?
So there's Richard, Alberto, and Dutchman, who comes over occasionally. So they're the 3 sort of technically. We've then got a S&C coach, but when I say we've got maybe a day and a half a week kind of thing, couple of days a week spread out over the week. He comes in and we have, we'll go and do some sessions in program. Excuse me. And we've got only just literally about a month before lockdown, we've got our own physio. We shared a physio with the Paras, but with the Paras going away, he goes away with them, he comes back, so he's away a week, he comes back, he has some time off in lieu, etc. So we've recently got our own physio who would be there, I think 4 half days a week, as well, coming away to a few internationals. So we've got three technical coach, or 3 coaches, coach, planner, and an assistant coach, effectively. Alberto's assistant coach, S&C coach, a physio, and then we've got a woman called Liz Minot, who's absolutely fantastic, NLP practitioner, helping us with our sort of psychology and the words that we're talking about, the words that we're using as well. Some fantastic, just leading conversations in there as well. I'd say we've got a really, really good team within archerygb now of support staff They're not necessarily all the time. You know, we don't have an Olympic squad with, you know, 12 full-time employees as we have had at times.
Sure.
But a really, really good team, really, really positive set of skills and knowledge and sort of interactive capability there.
Yeah. So with what's the current situation of Tokyo Olympics, obviously with COVID? Firstly, how many of you guys qualified for it, and what's the situation now? Is it going to be pushed back, or what are they doing with the Olympics?
So we've qualified a full team for Tokyo. I qualified for Rio as an individual, first GB archer to qualify. Shortly after, my close friend Naomi, she qualified as well. So we went to the Olympics as 1-1. And obviously there wasn't a mixed team event in Rio. There is now going to be a mixed team event in Tokyo. I said that after Rio I wouldn't be going alone. I've delivered very nicely on that promise. We've delivered very nicely on that promise. I've got a full team qualified for Tokyo. We were about to have selection. When I say about to have selection, we were, I think, 4 days. We were on the Saturday when elite sport was cancelled. Monday was lockdown. Our selection shoot was due to start, I think it was Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, man.
So that was how close we were to that. We were ready for that event.
Yeah.
The selection event has been moved forward to 21. Tokyo has been postponed to 21. Obviously, many federations' calendars all screwed up, jumbled around by that. And at the moment, obviously, we're not quite sure if it will happen. You know, there's possibilities it could go either way. But I'm a big one for positivity, so I think Tokyo 2021 games will be a light at the end of the tunnel for this dark time of humanity.
Absolutely, yeah. They're basically going to push the Olympics back 1 year. So will you guys, the same team, you're just going to pick up where you left off, basically? You'll still be able to qualify as normal?
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, we have to see what the situation with competitions in the UK run happens with. Personally, I would very much be in favour that if somebody puts in the scores that would have qualified you last year for an event that is next year, if they're putting in the scores this year, you should, in my opinion, be able to compete in the selection shoot along with everybody. Whether that Paris Archery GB line, I'm not entirely sure. But I think that in the interest of fairness, everything should just be 2020 plus 1.
Yeah, got you.
But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I mentioned to you, I'm currently doing my level 3 county coaching course, and so that's really opened my mind to a lot more aspects of archery in terms of coaching per se, as well as stuff I hadn't covered that much before, compound and things like that. One of the topics that was very interesting was what they call periodization. So, planning, the whole calendar way ahead so that you can peak at the right time. How do you, I guess, I know we've covered a little bit of your schedule, your training schedule, but when does your season start? So for example, let's say you wanted to peak at the Olympics. How far back do you start training in preparation for that?
There's different perspectives on this.
Okay.
I personally think that archery is enough of a close skill that you should be performing your competitive archery shot at competition. That is a big difference. At competition, not necessarily all the time, but most of the time, and definitely, say you want to peak in August when the Olympics are, I think you should be doing your competitive shot for at least 9 months before that. You might take little gaps from that when you're in very, very high loading, or you don't necessarily want to be doing competitions all the time. Yeah. But for myself, I do such a different shot under pressure that I need to be training that. Like, training that shot needs to be done. Like, if I just do loads of intense volume, I won't actually be training what I'm going to be doing. Right. They may technically be the same skill, but it is not the same thing that I do when I come to I don't think it makes much difference up until you get to the point of being absolutely objective driven. And now you could say that is much earlier in your career, But earlier in your career, your journey is going to be so varying and fluctuating in terms of the technical things you'll be working on, the fitness areas that you're, the fitness level that you're at, and the definitions of that. You can say, I'm going to work on my technique, and I'll work for a month, 2 months here, and then I'll do a big block of physical training, a big block of volume, and then I'll spend a period of time honing my technique, and then I'll spend 2 months drilling loads of volume in preparation for this event. If a week and a half, 2 weeks before that event, you suddenly go to pot, it's going to be very difficult for you to commit and stick to that plan, which supposedly your technique that you worked on loads doesn't fit it. So there definitely has to be a large amount of flux. And I think real periodization of people's performance doesn't really matter until you are an elite level of whatever level that wants to be. You might consider elite at county level. You might consider elite at 1300 level. You might consider elite at trying to target the British Championships. You can consider elite at whatever level you want, but effectively the further up that scale you go, the more accurate periodization can be, because you also have to consider how much am I going to be able to stick to that plan. Or is there a point in me defining the next 12 months of my career and trying to periodize and quantify all of that? If actually, when it comes to how my life's going to pan out, am I still going to be doing 3 gym sessions a week and shooting black balls 6 days a week?
Right.
So the periodization in archery isn't really that much of an issue until you are effectively 1300 plus in a FITA trying to make GB teams, or even frankly once you've made the GB team and you're trying to go for major championships, Olympics.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's when we were going through it, I found it very difficult to visualize someone living like a robot. Okay, I'm going to do this 3 times a week, and at 2:30 I'm going to be doing my training, and then I'm going to rest for 30 minutes and stuff like that. Life is just not like that, right? But I mean, you have to have a plan, of course. You have to have a blueprint, a template that you go towards, a regime. But I mean, life just changes, circumstances change. I mean, just look at the situation we're in. I think it's been a good life lesson that it's affected so many people's lives in so many different ways, that it forces us to adapt and also kind of rethink what is important and what's not. I wanted to ask you about, we can see your energy is amazing. You're a super positive guy, but surely there are times where, we all have a bit of a lull, and we just sometimes just don't feel like shooting, and we just feel a bit negative and lazy, whatever. How do you get over those mental obstacles of just not wanting to shoot or not wanting to do your normal routine? How do you kind of get over those obstacles mentally?
Yeah, so as you said, I've got a lot of energy and I've got a lot of positivity and passion for the things that I do, and that is absolutely a large portion of my personality and who I am. But it is also particularly noticeable on camera. I enjoy being on camera. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy discussing archery technique and all of these different things, what have you. So what people may see and what I portray myself to come across on your screen when you're looking at me isn't necessarily who I exist as all the time.
All right.
And it's definitely easier for me to, even if I'm in a crap place, I will have to be in a very crap place for me to be noticeably off on camera effectively.
Right.
All of this positivity, all of this stuff around my room is to help them, as I believe this one says, point the right way. This one says, think about the right stuff. This one's one small step daily. So this is one of the things I do. I have these little post-it notes stuck up around the room so that I am pointing the right way. I am setting my mind on the right things. I am going the right direction, so that there is a general trend to be moving in the right direction. And as much as I might feel, I will, as if you have a look at my YouTube page, I'm sure you're obviously alluding to, there's quite a lot of stuff about mental health. I spoke quite a lot about my own experiences during Mental Health Awareness Week. Strongly recommend you have a look at that, guys. But one of the big things that I've found is to be able to accept where you are and not judge yourself upon it. If you are putting things in place to make one small step daily. As I say about in one of my first videos, the first thing I said was make your bed. It's really, really simple. One
Right.
small step. If you do nothing else all day, if you go downstairs and spend the rest of the day with a bag of tinnies in front of you and you drink the day away, if you made your bed, that is one step better than getting up yesterday and just drinking tinnies all day.
Yeah.
That making your bed is one small step, and then you know that you are moving the right direction. I've learned not to, and I'm still not necessarily, I'm not necessarily, got all of this right, but learning not to judge yourself and not to be unnecessarily hard on yourself, because that becomes a rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
I really enjoy doing videos and I really enjoy posting videos, but it takes a lot of energy from me. When I'm working with people, when I'm engaging with, for example, talking to you now, I could do this all day. We could sit here. I could honestly, and I have to bear in mind the time we've got commitments in the afternoon. I could stand here and talk to you for 3 hours. That wouldn't be an issue at all.
Right.
Doing it to the camera, that does seem to drain me in a slightly different way. So, for example, I had a few sort of down days last week. I've now decided I'll take a little bit of time off making videos to post online. I've still been posting some stuff online, but I've taken a little bit of time out so that I can let myself get back to that level. I looked up shooting 70 meters. I shot a huge amount. First off, I knackered myself because shooting 350 arrows at 7 meters or shooting 350 arrows at 70 meters, an awful lot more walking and a lot more intensity, a lot more holding.
Sure.
And also, I damaged my fingers a bit. The muscles, I was shooting an awful lot, big poundage, loads of holding. Damaged my fingers, so I was really tired, B, not able to shoot. And then for 3 days, 4 days, I felt like crap. It was awful, it wasn't enjoyable. But actually, an awful lot of that was I was just tired. Yes, I'm a bit worried that I've hurt my fingers. I'll be, I want to be able to shoot. I can't. But a lot of that feeling, a lot of that negativity I was feeling was actually just tiredness. So accepting that and taking one small step daily and pointing the right way. Yes, I might have taken a few steps back. I'm not doing all of those, really positive things that I want to be doing every day to enhance my personal growth and all that. But I'm pointing the right way. Even if I've gone back, I'm still on the path.
On that path,
so
right.
I can pick it up again and I can carry on walking and go in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. The key thing is that you haven't turned around and gone that way. You're still facing the right direction, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
My psyche.
Yeah. A couple of questions left. I know that I've kept you standing for nearly an hour now, and we're probably dehydrating you.
That's why I am. As you may notice, in terms of more positivity, my water bottle, I do need to redo it. Covered in.
Wow.
I do need to redo it. Winning gold, 10 medals, awesome. 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, gold, etc. Every time I pick up this bottle, I do need to redo it. It has faded a bit too much now. But I'm seeing 350, 118, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, gold.
That's it. Positive reinforcement.
Exactly. You'll also notice as well that there are only 2 colors. I say gold, and I've even drawn podiums and stuff, gold and bronze. I don't have silver.
Why is that?
Silver means I lost the medal match.
Really?
Bronze and gold, I won the medal match. I've got 5 World Championship medals. Individual cadet gold from Wuxi, mixed team cadet gold from Wuxi, junior men's team gold from Zagreb, which was actually won by the Northern Ireland. The GB junior gents field team was entirely Northern Irish. I've got an individual bronze from the World Fields 2016 and a mixed team bronze from the World Champs in 2017. That's 3 gold medals and 2 bronze because I've won every single World Championship medal match because that's like me.
Got you. Right, I understand. Yeah. And the reason your bottle is orange, just so that you can see it out when you're out and about, I guess, or what?
Things. Like this is my daily scores board. Like basically, Aldi just had a pile of fluorescent tape a while ago, so I bought loads because I just really. I'll show you my sock drawer. There's a collection taken from my sock drawer.
Crazy. Awesome.
Just literally grabbed out of it. I just like colourful things.
Awesome. I wanted to talk to you just again briefly about blank bossing. How important is blank bossing? How much of your time is spent at close range blank bossing before you do your normal long distance?
I wouldn't weight it above about 2%.
Really?
It totally depends where you are in your career and what you're doing with your career. I think that is in terms, when I say weighted 2%, in terms of my time, I don't spend much time doing blank balls. I much prefer shooting at the target. I do a very different shot. For me, blank balls is about either trying to drill a process. Drilling technique with blank balls doesn't matter because it feels so different, in my opinion. You can obviously learn technique blank balls and it works very well. But if I go to a target, I can be shooting so differently, as I said about that competition thing.
Yeah.
Shooting at a target feels so different that I need to do the technical thing at a target. I might do it at a target close to me, a big target, so I can hit the middle all the time doing this technique thing. But I still want to be shooting at a set of circles effectively.
Right.
Right. I think blank balls is fantastic for anybody wanting to build fitness or to develop at a young stage. I think it would be very useful, for example, if you're 14 and you have big goals, you put a blank ball up at home. You might only get 5 meters in your back garden, in your garage, wherever. But if you just drill that, that means you have the fitness, you have the capability to be able to execute that shot.
Right.
And I find it great for building process. If you want to build not just some little technical thing that you're trying to do, but you want to build the entire process, shooting, the thought processes, etc. Because as in with winning in mind, what do you think about before the shot? What do you think about during the shot? What do you think about after the shot is really, really important. So if you make all of those things correct, you can shoot a bad shot, but walk away. You can shoot a bad shot every end, every single arrow, but walk away with a positive training session if you use your mind correctly. If you mentally rehearse a good shot, execute a bad shot. Obviously, you want to execute a good shot, and then mentally reinforce a good shot. You've still got 2 out of 3 good shots.
Right.
And if you control your thoughts beforehand, it makes that shot in the middle much more likely to be good. And then you think about how that good shot felt, what it was like, etc. You end up tripling your effectiveness of that practice session. That's the kind of stuff you can do really well at blank balls. I actually spent some time before I shot. No, it's up over there. My 687, 720 record.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of blank balls with my scope, and I was practicing my physical routine, my breathing routine, my mental routine, and including scoping. I was scoping a blank boss, but I was imagining looking into the target and seeing the arrows in the middle. So then when I went on to the tournament, I was able to just pick it up, and I just fell into this rhythm. And the breath is a really, really good thing to base the rhythm from as well.
Yeah.
So that just, the blank balls allowed me to develop that flow state.
Excellent. So for someone at the more, I guess basic level, blank bossing helps a lot more. But when you're at a more higher elite level, you don't need to do as much blank bossing. You can just kind of do a couple of ends, and then you can move on to your normal distance.
What I would say is I wouldn't necessarily do it regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say do a couple of ends before shooting every day, because there's loads of places you won't have that. So having to rely on that as part of your warm-up sort of leaves you self-handicapping effectively. But I would do occasionally, I'll shoot 200 arrows. One of the things that blank balls is fantastic for is both volume and intensity. You can shoot a lot of arrows at blank balls really quickly. You get a lot of work done in your muscles, and you get a lot of training effect. So if you put in, say you're shooting 3 times a week, or say you're shooting 4 or 5 times a week, I would probably do maybe 1 set. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, it just cut out so slightly there. Just say if you're shooting once a week, sorry?
If you're shooting once a week, I would probably, sorry, if you're shooting 3 times a week, I would probably do maybe 1 session every couple of weeks, maybe 2 sessions every couple of weeks, depending on where you are. I'd probably do about 1 in 6, 1 in 5.
Okay, got you. Right. Okay, cool, interesting. All right, final thing, we're just going to try and bring us to a close, is looking forward to, archery in the UK. How do you personally, how would you like to see it being developed? What do you foresee archery in the future looking like, or how would you like it to look?
So I think that we're in a place where people want that we have actually been in this place for a while. People want experiences more than things. That's why you see escape rooms. That's why you see axe throwing. That's what people. You think it's a bad weather day. You can't go out with your friend. Think, what can I do? Cinema, bowling, ice skating. Maybe an escape room, kind of thing. Sort of got into that niche, that sort of market. I think that archery is a fantastic and phenomenal potential as a recreational activity. We need to have it so that people can come along, and like with bowling, people can just come along. You pay your money at the cashier's desk, go along to a range. Yes, somebody might need to instruct you a little bit more than they do in bowling, but you need to have it down so that within 10 minutes from you arriving at a place, you're able to shoot and you're able to have fun. And you're able to have fun without the safety risk. So I think the foam-tipped arrows are going to be a big thing in that. Both combat archery, we both know how viral archery tag videos have gone because it looks amazing. And I promise you, as someone that leads sessions regularly, it is amazing fun. But you can have almost all of that fun doing target archery. You can effectively do target archery. You can learn the technique. You can have the motivation and the enjoyment and that caveman pleasure of shooting a bow and arrow with foam-tipped arrows, and then the knockout targets give you that score. And obviously you can digitize that. You get pressure pad scoring. I think there's a lot of potential for archery as a recreational activity, and then that should feed a much. If you imagine that pyramid we talked about earlier with Korea, if you have a large amount of people doing the odd bit of recreational archery, some of them will like it. They'll come back regularly and do it. A lot of them will go, you know what, I'd like to do it well. And if we use, I'm a big fan of The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, the fantastic book. It talks about one of the big things needed for people to excel is he talks about ignition. You need to be inspired by something to go and do lots of, do all the hard work that eventually leads to you becoming exceptional at something. If you have, first off, foam-tipped archery is fun. It is really enjoyable. That will ignite and inspire people. But if you combine their engagement and their interest in this is a fun activity which is enjoyable, I like this, but you also put up, photographs and videos of GB's archers. Say you come along and you get your instruction from the screen, and there are clips of GB archers, myself, Tom Paul, Sarah Bettles, Naomi Font. We've got tons of GB medalists. You can have photographs of GB international medalists plastered all over the walls, and people go, this is amazing fun, and look, I can compete for my county. I can represent the country. I can represent.
That's where I could get to.
And then we've got all these levels of progression. Bowman, first class, second class, Grandmaster Bowman, all of that, all of the award schemes. There's a fantastic structure there to get people into archery, and then get people into archery in a fun way using foam-tipped arrows, and then direct them through the sport. It just needs to be commercialized, shall we say.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, that's really the only way, or the most viable and realistic way. You just need to get a lot of traffic coming through at the grassroots level, so that it filters, at the higher level as well. So I definitely think there's a lot of mileage in that idea for sure. Patrick, it's been an awesome pleasure of mine to chat with you. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. You've probably got training and stuff on today. So I appreciate your time, giving us an insight into your life and your training and all of your awards and medals and stuff like that. We hope that you're going to have to find some more space on your wall so that you can put up some more certificates and medals and things like that. No doubt this won't be our first and only meeting. Hopefully we're definitely going to stay in touch and throw ideas about and see how we can maybe help each other as well. But I'd like to thank you for your time and all of your effort and sacrifice for being a kind of a world-class archer as well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your kind word. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Hopefully you've learned something and your viewers can pick some interesting tidbits from our chat today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
Cool.
All right.